our lineage story.
Yes.
So thank you all so much for coming to our second Skagit Uplift. Yay! So for those who were here last time, I talked a little bit about the idea behind this group. I'm going to reiterate some of that just for the new folks here. So one of the things that I think a lot about is this concept of what you dwell upon, you become. And another way of saying that is neurons that fire together, wire together. And so much of our world is consumed in fear, in sadness, in scary things. And sometimes it's really hard to find that positive angle on things. And so part of this group is just having a place that we can come together with intention of being fabulous, positive women together. And I think women have a special way of connecting, and we have a special way of being in the world that allows us to kind of grow together and learn from each other. No, come on through. It's okay. You're going to have to move through. It's totally fine. So that's the kind of general idea for this group. And so I wanted to just talk a little bit about some of the things that I've been thinking about recently. So I do a lot of thinking, and I need a place to put that. And then we're going to invite Ozith up to talk a little bit more. So this group is really intended to bring more positivity into the world and allow us to have a space that we can kind of work on that positivity within ourselves. So I've been in the environmental movement for pretty much my whole life. And it's something I've always been called to, and I'm not really totally sure why, but it's the connection with nature is super duper important to me. Super duper, very technical word. And I've often wondered, like, why does it feel like we're failing in the environmental movement? Why does it feel like everywhere you go, there's more whales with babies, that sad story of that whale, or the skies are filling with smoke and you just feel this sense of doom. And I ran into the book again, The Power of Now by Eckert Tolle. This is a book that came into my life over 20 years ago. And I was working as a naturalist and guide up in Alaska when I first saw it. And I remember it was the engineer. I still remember him like holding the book, climbing into his bunk above our kind of common table, this big lanky guy. And there's 4 crew or so on the boat, and we all started joking and calling it the Hour of Pow. And ever since that day, it was like 20 years ago, I've wanted to read this book, The Hour of Pow. But I've never taken the time to actually read it until like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I was on vacation, and I was listening to it on audiobook, and I was so drawn to the messages in this book that I bought it, and I'm now reading it again and underlying things. And one of the things that I think really finally was connected in this book that, there's a lot of different things, but one of the things that I really liked was that he talks about the pollution of the planet is only an outward reflection of our inner pollution. So that there's millions and millions of us unconscious individuals out there, and that is leading to the manifestation of this kind of planet, of this pollution that we're experiencing. And then he goes on to ask, are you polluting the world, or are you cleaning it up? I went, oh my gosh. So maybe the actions that I'm taking in my work as an environmentalist to restore the Puget Sound, and I'm doing restoration, and I'm talking to the right political people, but I'm missing that there is something in our psyche, there's something in ourselves that is continuing this kind of onward devastation or destruction of our planet. That this is really a mental health problem. Mm-hmm. And in this way, like, I often think, well, if we solve homelessness, then we're going to solve the problems with Puget Sound. if we solve the opioid crisis, then we're going to solve the problems in Puget Sound, because what it is these are all linked to our unhealthy mental states. These are all things that are really connected to this problem of living in the future. So that's the worry, that's the fear, that's the anxiety and the stress. Or living in the past, and that's the guilt, the lack of resolution, the lack of forgiveness. And in Eckert Tolle's work, the solution is this now, and finding the presence in the now. And if you've ever tried to feel like upset when you're really, really present in the now, you find it's really pretty impossible, because a lot of that suffering has to do with that projection forward, or that reflection backwards. So I was thinking about, if we as humans begin to clear up that inner pollution, what does that mean for the world that we're living in? And for me, it's the environmental movement, but for others it might be the opioid crisis, or it might be homelessness, or whatever. But that this clearing up this outward situation that we're in, there's no problems in Eckert Tolle's world, it's all situations. What do you mean there's no problems? I don't know. But by clearing up this inner world, that we have the ability then to start resonating out. And so the other thing he talks a lot about in this book, or mentions, is the power of the collective coming together. And that when you are in a collective group and putting out and thinking about these very positive intentions, you have a ripple effect that's more than just you as an individual. So me as an individual, working on that inner work and that mindset, I can be a pebble in the water, and I reverberate out, and I influence, and I affect. But as we gather together as a collective, that pebble becomes a stone or a boulder, and we're able to then create a greater wake into that collective consciousness in the world. And I love that idea that coming together in a group, sharing our stories, and being present and being very intentional in our time allows us to not only help build this greater resilience and wealth within ourselves, but also has the potential to be that wake that we are then taking out into the world and influencing and creating positivity in the places that we are. And so that's what upliftment means to me. And that's what I hope that we're able to generate and create as we consider these ideas together. So thank you so much for coming. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Morgan. So I know Elizabeth from my work at the Puget Sound Partnership, actually. Elizabeth was a city council member in the town of Duval, and poor thing was put onto a couple of my groups that I was trying to facilitate and move forward. But I got to know her that way, and then we actually ended up moving to Mount Vernon right around the same time. Yeah. And so we would always run into each other at the co-op, and gradually we're able to connect more and more. And I'm really excited about the wealth that you bring and the perspective that you're going to share with us today. So I think with that, we'll go ahead and introduce Elizabeth. Thank you.
Thanks, Morgan. All right.